This is the easiest and less fast way to obtain a faux realistic looking turquoise. I will show you several of the ways I know how to do cabochon turquoises. On this one, all you need is just the Premo turquoise, and I mixed it 2 parts turquoise with 1 part of translucent. I put it in the cabochon, and I will give at the end of this video several color recipes for various hues of turquoise. But what you need for this one is some crappy crayon. And I insist on this. It has to be crappy, not the good quality, very waxy one, because the very waxy one leaves divots, not cracks in the clay. I got this one at the Dollar Tree. It was just $1 for the whole box. So grab your X-Acto knife and scrape some slivers. You will not really be able to do slivers like in a good quality crayon, but do your best to get some chunks. And then just spread them around and lightly press your cabochon face down in the chunks of crayon. I think here that I need 1 or 2 more in specific spots. And what happens when this drier type of crayon melts in the oven, it will not only very finely crack the clay, but also leach a little bit of pigment, and it gives very much the aspect of the real stone. Now, once it's done, while it's still warm, wipe it. It will look very bad. It will look all smudged and nasty and ugly. Don't worry, it will look beautiful. Just wipe with alcohol as much as you can out of it. And then you will need to do some sanding, and I can assure you that the sanding is fairly minimal. Because you only need to remove that very thin layer of pigment that's on the clay. And I am using the Polyfast, but you can use just a regular wet sandpaper. I'm first using low grit. I think this one is like 120, just to make things go faster, and mainly because I'm out of batteries and the Polyfast needs new batteries. But I will do first the 120 grit, and then I move to a 400 just for finer details. And once I'm at the 400, I am removing pretty much every trace of pigment that's on the surface. You can already see the slight discoloration. You can remove some of it because most of it is on the surface. It's not very deep. And the one that is very deep will just give more authenticity to the faux stone. Then once I am done with it, for the moment, this is all we need to do with the faux stone itself. And as the bonus, I will show you how to make a Moroccan style pendant. And that is when you'll see how the faux stone looks when completely finished, because just because I'll have to work with it, I am not putting any kind of varnish on it. So what I got some granite pearl, and I mixed it with black, like 2 parts granite pearl with 1 part black. Then you need a texture, a floral texture that's not very deep, and some tiny cutter. If you don't have tiny cutters, then a broken pen is just fine. Now I'm going to do this almost twice as big as I would normally do it, just for you to be able to see what I'm doing. Normally I would make that cabochon about 2/3 of the size it is. So I have my granite on the thickest setting, and I am going first to press it on the texture sheet. And as I said, any floral texture sheet would work as long as it's not very deep, even deeper. But Try to make it floral, or if you have any kind of arabesque or paisley, that would work too, but it has to be fairly small. The print has to be fairly small. Then I am using the round cutter, and then I will go with the clay through the pasta machine again, and that's going to be my back, and I'm using my raspberry bead to do some hammered metal texture. If you have any other texture sheet, you can use that, but I prefer my raspberry bead because it gives a very authentic hammered metal look. Then I am going to place it with the texture down on a paper towel because I'm going to do a little bit of pressing and I don't want to destroy the texture on the back. I'm placing the circle I have cut earlier, the one with the floral texture on the front, and then I am choosing a tiny cutter, and I'm going to start cutting tiny holes all around that circle, only that on one side I will be closer to the circle and getting just a few millimeters farther as I go to the opposite side of the circle, and then come back closer to the circle. And don't worry, you can remove all those little dots. And I think I need to find my other camera so I can show a view from the side, because in cases like this my fingers pretty much cover what I'm doing and you cannot really see what I'm doing. Then remove as much of those dots as you can, and then get your X-Acto knife and start cutting around those holes, like the petals on a flower. And see how my fingers cover what I'm doing. Then gently fix wherever you messed up. You can round with your fingers a little bit. You can cut more in the middles. Then I am using the tip of my paintbrush handle to give more definition to those holes, and again you can remove with your X-Acto knife and kind of finesse those holes. Then I will take the back of my rigid blade and make like a cross. Don't cut too deep, just leave an imprint. And then with a teardrop cutter, the smaller that I have, I will make also little imprints in those four corners. Only the tip of that will be seen once I place the stone there. Then I'm going to put some bacon bond on the back of the stone, and then place the stone right in the middle. And see here, because I have to press on the stone, I am going to place it again on the paper towel. I had removed it from the paper towel so I can use the X-Acto knife to finesse those holes. Then make a little snake out of clay and cut equal pieces out of it and make little beads. Arrange the beads around the stone. Now remember, you have the circle is raw clay, so for now just arrange them. They will not really stick very well. They might have the tendency to follow your fingers, but just arrange them there, you know, in a circle to make sure that they are evenly spaced, that you don't have any kind of empty space. And then I'm using here the tip of my paintbrush handle, but you can use your ball stylus. And I am just making a hole by flattening those little beads, and that way I also fix them to the circle. See, I just need one more there. Once you get to this point, you kind of need to do a little bit of antiquing, because once you get to the next point, it will be very hard to do that without staining something else. I'm using the glossy enamels Deco Art silver, metallic silver, and I am doing mostly the edges of those little hold out beads, and then I will use the dry rub to apply a first coat of silver. Dry rub means that I am dipping the paintbrush in paint, and then I am wiping it on the paper towel, and then slightly rub the clay only on the raised surfaces with the paintbrush almost dry of paint. Now don't forget to do the side edge of the circle. Then after I do apply some silver on the around the holes, I use an old toothbrush to gently press, because it gives a look of antiqued metal, and then I'll make two little dots between each of those holes with a toothpick. Now take some Premo pomegranate and do the same thing. Cut a strip or do a snake and cut it in equal parts and make even tinier beads. They need to be a little bit tinier. Then with my paintbrush I take a little bit of liquid clay and just dot inside those holes. I know it is raw clay, but remember we play some acrylics, so the red beads might not stick. Then just gently place the beads pretty much on top and press. Because you have the liquid clay in there, they will be very easy to adhere right in those holes. And those will look like little coral beads set in silver around a turquoise. And once this is done, make sure that they are all pressed at about the same height. Clear whatever bits and crumbs you might have, and you're ready to go baking. Now I baked, and then I applied some Kato liquid PolyClay and cured it with a heat gun. And now I'm going to get some gilder's wax paste and finesse the antiquing, also using a paintbrush. I will first go on the very edge of those little faux coral beads. And then, because this is almost a dry rub, I can use the paintbrush to go over the textured part as well, without covering the indentations in the texture. And because I have used that granite pearl mixed with black, you don't really need to do any kind of antiquing with black acrylic either. Don't forget again to do the edge, the sides of the big circle, and then I'm just using my finger to apply some on the whole area, and then on the very edge and on the back. Once this will be set, it takes about an hour. I will be applying some Minwax varnish also, because I think it's better than to just buff it. But this is pretty much it. I'm putting a pinch bail there on the spot where the holes are the closest to the circle. And there you go, your very own Moroccan style turquoise and coral pendant. Now remember, make it smaller than this. This is too gaudy. Happy claying!